If you love animated content that breaks down book summaries and dives into fascinating topics, we'd love your support. Creating these videos takes a lot of time and effort, and by subscribing, you help us continue bringing you this valuable content consistently. Your support means the world to us. Hit that subscribe button and join us on this exciting journey. And now, let's continue with the video. Start with why. Chapter 1: Tidying Up Can Make Us Happier at Work. Marie Kondo is an expert organizing consultant. She helps individuals organize their things for a happier and easier life. She pioneered the KonMari method of cleaning, organizing, and streamlining possessions by keeping only the things that spark joy or bring us happiness. And she has become a global best-selling author and the star of her own Netflix show, Tidying Up with Marie Kondo. Kondo is known for helping people organize their homes, but she also believes in the power of tidying up to transform our work lives. She teamed up with Rice Business School professor Scott Sonnenschein to write Joy at Work to apply the principles of tidying up to work. In the following chapters, we'll draw out key insights on how to organize and streamline our working lives and schedules. Not everything we do at work will spark joy all the time. The tools we use and the people we work with won't always make us happy. But key principles from Joy at Work can help us develop a cleaner space and a clearer mind, enabling more creativity and productivity in our work. Even if we don't realize it, when our workspace is messy, it drives stress and wastes our time because our things are harder to find. UCLA scientists have found that clutter directly increases levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, which in turn drives disorders like depression and insomnia. Kondo has seen clients improve their job performance, work relationships, and daily levels of satisfaction through organizing. Key idea: a clean and organized approach to work saves time and generates positive energy. A clean workspace saves time, helping us avoid the inefficiency of searching for lost things. The total global cost of time wasted at work while looking for lost items is estimated at $8.9 billion per year. This includes digital organization, too. Lost productivity from forgotten passwords costs companies at least $420 per employee per year. And our schedules need tidying. On average, office workers waste 2 hours and 39 minutes in inefficient meetings per week. This ineffective use of time clutters our schedules and adds to our stress levels. And tidying all of these aspects of our lives will create space and energy for better work and more creativity. Meanwhile, the process of going through and organizing our things allows us to question what is truly useful to us and makes us happy. And we can apply this question to bigger questions, like what we really want to do with our time and careers. For example, Kondo has had clients who pivot to freelance or turn down projects because the tidying up process sparked new ideas. As a result, she sees this simple act of tidying as a major project that will change your life forever. In the next chapter, we'll begin the journey towards a clutter-free and stress-free workplace. Chapter 2: How to Organize Your Workspace. If you struggle to keep your workspace clean, you've probably grown used to the mess and might feel like tidying up is no longer worthwhile. It can seem like too big of a task or a fruitless one if we feel like we have to keep cleaning over and over again. Psychologists are finding that, even if we don't know it, a messy environment takes a toll. Our brains are forced to work harder to process all the things around us, which distracts us from our work and drains our energy. Key idea: one deep clean will help you organize all your items in one go, so clutter doesn't reappear. Kondo tells us that a truly clean workspace that inspires creativity and efficiency shouldn't just look neat on the surface. Hiding things in drawers or under your desk won't suffice. Rather, a truly tidy workspace means everything will have a permanent place where it belongs. And you can return it there after each use to avoid sliding back into disorganization. That way, you won't have to repeatedly clean, which can become an arduous chore. In order to create a system where each item has its place, Kondo recommends cleaning your entire workspace in one go. Cleaning in short bursts makes us less likely to finish the job, as new things will pile up in between sessions. Instead, Kondo recommends setting aside as large a block of time as possible to complete the task, 3 to 5 hours for a desk area, up to 10 for a cubicle or room. It can be split up into multiple sessions, but these should occur as close together as possible to avoid relapsing into clutter in between. All told, the process should not take more than a month. And during that time, the tidying festival, as Kondo calls it, should involve intensively assessing everything in your workspace. The first is things that spark joy, those that you personally enjoy having or using, for example, a favorite pen or a photo of family. The second category is useful and functional things, those that help you do your job, like a stapler. And the third category is for things that will lead to future joy, not necessarily fun, but usefulness down the line. Everything else can be tossed, streamlining the number of things you have in your workspace. After this process, you'll have kept only the things you like and the things you need, creating a clean and tidy space that makes your work life easier and happier. Chapter 3: How to Organize Different Types of Items. Joy at Work. Looking for misplaced things wastes an enormous amount of time at work. Studies show an average of 1 week per year per employee. On top of that, nearly half of office workers lose at least one major work-related thing every year, wasting time and money. Kondo shows how we can efficiently organize things to avoid wasting time. She starts by grouping all similar items together. You can choose your own categories, but they might include pens, books, papers, electronic items, food items, personal care items. For example, right now you may have pens sitting in many different areas and drawers. Since they're scattered, you don't know how many of them you have, and it's hard to decide which are your favorites. When you collect them all in one place, and you can look at them together, decide which to discard and which to keep. And then, you can choose one drawer or pen holder to keep them in permanently, so you always know where they are. In order to sort through books and decide which ones to get rid of, it's important to pick up each one and ask whether it's still valuable to you. Ask yourself whether it sparks joy, and, if you haven't read it yet, if you actually will, and when. Would you still buy it if you saw it in a bookstore? If not, it may be past its prime, and it's okay to let go of it. Papers are one of the most time-consuming categories to sort through, because they pile up easily, and important ones frequently get mixed in with disposable ones. Start with the assumption that every paper should be discarded, and only save them when absolutely necessary. When papers are stacked, it's easier for them to get lost. Those at the bottom of the pile are easily forgotten about. Kondo recommends storing categorized papers in hanging files, like in a filing cabinet, rather than in flat stacks. If you find papers that are worth saving, but you don't need the hard copy, you can scan or photograph them. However, this should only be done selectively. It's easy to fall into the trap of saving large piles to scan and never getting around to it. Key idea when working through miscellaneous items: create subcategories and designated spaces. Kondo uses the Japanese word kimono to refer to miscellaneous items, office supplies, snacks, electronic parts, personal care items. She recommends sorting these into subcategories and then looking at each, one by one, to evaluate it and throw out what you no longer need or want. And for everything you are keeping, choose a designated spot, a specific drawer, shelf, or box, depending on available storage. Try not to store too many things on the surface of your desk so you can create a clear workspace that allows for focus and creativity. Chapter 4: How to Organize Your Digital Workspace. Joy at Work. It's easy for digital files to pile up without our noticing, eating up our device storage until we feel overwhelmed by our technology. While your computer's search function can help retrieve items, you may waste time sorting through many results. Research has shown that people derive more satisfaction from knowing exactly where their files are rather than relying on search. You may wind up searching for a word that turns up dozens of results. An organized digital workspace will help you stay aware of all of your files and feel in control of your technology. Key idea when organizing digital documents: create a current projects folder, a records folder, and a saved work folder. Everyone's work life is different, so there's no one-size-fits-all when it comes to organizing. However, Kondo recommends starting with a baseline system of 3 document folders. The first is for current projects, with a subfolder for each project you're working on. The next is for records, which contains files you need for reference. And the third is for saved work, which should contain documents from previous projects that will be useful for the future. It's important to make a habit of storing similar documents in the same places and saving only what's needed. If there are files you need to keep, but won't regularly access, put them in a separate folder out of sight so they don't confuse you. Your desktop, like your actual desk, should only reflect things you're immediately working on and need right away. Key idea when managing your inbox: keep your folder system simple. Some people avoid any kind of email organization altogether, while others maintain intricate email filing systems. Kondo believes that both are inefficient. She recommends keeping a limited number of email folders, under 10, organized in a way that makes sense for the type of work you do. For example, if part of your work involves social media promotion, you can create a social media folder that includes material for various accounts. Only save emails that fall into one of 3 categories: useful for the future, will provide knowledge, inspiration, or motivation, or sparks joy. Sort your emails on a daily basis and don't let them pile up. But if you already have, don't worry, it's not too late. If you're looking at a huge backlog of emails that would take too long to sort, simply place them in one big folder and start your new system from scratch today. If you keep your digital spaces uncluttered, you'll be more likely to feel in control of your work life and less overwhelmed by daily tasks. Chapter 5: How to Tidy Up Your Time. Joy at Work. Many of us know the difficulty of navigating an overpacked schedule. How can you clean up your schedule and ensure that you have time to do things that are fulfilling? Kondo calls the things that eat up our schedules activity clutter. She identifies 3 main sources. First, what she calls overearning, or working too hard in pursuit of a reward that we don't actually value. Kondo believes that too many of us get in the habit of overworking in an attempt to earn more than we actually need. And as a result, we give up on activities we love, like hobbies or spending time with family, to work more. The second pitfall is something Kondo calls the urgency trap, getting stuck in the cycle of jumping from one urgent task to another. These are tasks that must be done by a certain time: attending a client dinner, helping a colleague meet a deadline, or answering a phone call. When we do this, we miss the opportunity to work and think deeply and intensively, and we fall behind on longer-term projects. And as a result, you might be neglecting things that are important but don't seem urgent. This includes spending time on long-term career planning or taking a class to build skills. On average, half of an executive-level worker's tasks take less than 9 minutes, suggesting that these tasks are short and disconnected. Similarly, mid-level employees rarely get an uninterrupted block of time that lasts more than 30 minutes, on average, only once every other day. These short bursts of activity suggest that most workers are spending their time on quick, urgent tasks rather than sustained projects. Sometimes, it's important to put the brakes on these urgent tasks and carve out time for things like building positive relationships at work. The third pitfall is multitasking, which seems like an appealing way to efficiently get things done. Research shows, however, that multitaskers' performance and quality of work sharply declines. Eliminating some of this activity clutter will help you determine which activities are necessary and which spark joy. This can involve the same process by which you sort objects on your desk. For example, take some time to gather all of the meetings you go to in 1 week and evaluate whether they're necessary or spark joy. Then, you can begin to say no to the unnecessary meetings and activities and better organize the ones that you want or need to continue doing. Chapter 6: Change Your Career for the Better. Joy at Work. Kondo believes that the process of tidying can lead us to major realizations that will change our life for the better. All it takes is a willingness to apply the same principles of tidying up to other aspects of our lives, like our relationships or career goals. As an example, Kondo tells the story of one of her clients, Mifuyu. Mifuyu had a successful marketing career at a fashion magazine. She was well-paid and outwardly successful, but inside she was unhappy. She began tidying to try to figure out who she really was and what she wanted. Starting at home, Mifuyu began getting rid of the expensive designer clothes that she realized didn't truly spark joy. Then, she moved to her office, where her messy desk was piled with papers. With a newly clean space, Mifuyu, who had recently taken sick leave due to feeling depressed and overworked, had newfound energy for her job. She felt ownership over her work and her decisions, having taken control of her space and made decisions about each possession. She moved on to tidying her schedule and even her network, culling her contacts based on who was essential and who sparked joy. And in reevaluating her job, she realized that she would rather work freelance, and she quit to do so. The principles of tidying a cluttered desk can be used to make many aspects of our lives easier and more joyful. For example, if you're feeling overwhelmed by decision-making, you can tidy up your decisions. Start by gathering all of your low-stakes, less important decisions together. Most of these don't deserve much time and energy, but it can be easy to forget that. When possible, automate low-stakes decisions, like eating the same breakfast each morning or automatically reordering office supplies you need. Then, you'll have more time and energy to focus on decisions that really matter. To address these, gather your medium and high-stakes decisions and briefly summarize them on note cards or in a spreadsheet. From there, you can sort through and choose only the decisions that actually matter. Kondo has found that her clients gain great clarity from this exercise and leave it feeling refreshed and empowered. Ultimately, tidying up can bring more joy and more efficiency to work and to life. Chapter 1. The Importance of Knowing Your Why. Simon Sinek, author of Start With Why, was living the American dream. He owned his own strategic communications firm. But over time, he realized he was depressed. He liked his job enough and knew how to do it well. But he'd lost track of why he was doing it. Then he came to a realization. He discovered the importance of knowing your why. Your why is the thing that inspires you to get up and work hard every day. He studied the work of great leaders and discovered that each one clearly had a sense of purpose. They knew their why, and it drove them to inspire others. Sinek wrote Start With Why in 2009 to help others find their own why. Now, Sinek's TED Talk on Start With Why is the website's most popular, with over 48 million views. In the following chapters, you'll learn the importance of why from case studies and empirical evidence. And you'll see how finding your own why can transform your life. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, the founders of Apple, always had a clear why. They wanted to challenge the status quo and do things differently. Their why is what encouraged them to get out of bed every morning and work hard. And their why is what inspired, and continues to inspire, everything Apple does. Without Apple's why, their advertisements might read like the following. Like most ads, this tells us what the company does and what they're selling. But we don't really come away with a strong reason to choose Apple over other computer companies. Now, let's consider another ad. Although both ads have things in common, there's a strong difference. The second one shows Apple's why, and we can feel it. Apple's success comes from constantly showing us this why. They're not just a computer company, they want to do things differently. Their products are just examples of their why. Unlike their competitors, they don't need to slash prices or rely solely on gimmicky features to sell their products. Because we know their why, we trust whatever products they decide to make. We're inspired by what they stand for, and we're excited to stand with them. Chapter 2. How Gut Instincts Drive Decisions. Imagine you're on a first date. The person across from you is attractive, and you're pretty excited. They start to describe themselves. Your date tells you they're very rich, drive a nice car, and know lots of celebrities. What impression would you have of this person? Do you think you'd want a second date? Whether it's in business or romance, people are people. We want to understand each other, and we want to feel like we belong. But you can't really get to know someone if they only describe themselves with superficial attributes. By listing only their successes, your date didn't give you any real insight into who they actually are. This might make you less inclined to go on a second date. The same can be said for how we learn about companies. They often try to prove their value with a long list of their product features and benefits. But they don't show us what they stand for or what matters to them. So we don't really care about supporting them over any other company doing the same thing. In business, like in dating, we differentiate between things based on our gut instinct. But our gut instinct isn't influenced by rational thought. Our gut instinct is housed in our limbic brain, the most primitive part of our mind. The limbic brain is primarily in charge of emotions. It guides your behavior and causes you to feel things like trust and loyalty. But even though the limbic brain handles emotion, it can't process language. Then, as humans evolved, we developed another part of the brain called the neocortex. The neocortex is responsible for rational thought and language. This is why we can't articulate our gut instincts. Our mind handles emotion and language separately. For example, we might struggle to say why exactly we fell in love with someone. We can list their positive attributes, but really, it's because it just felt right. So when companies fail to communicate their why, we have to rely on our neocortex to make decisions about them. Instead of using our gut instincts, we have to judge them by assessing the gizmos and gadgets they're selling, not what they stand for. But as Sinek says, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. When you lead with why, you speak to people's gut instincts. And if people trust you in their gut, they're more likely to be loyal to you. Chapter 3. The Key to Your Why. Start with why. In 2009, Apple's computers were at least 25% more expensive than comparable PCs. They also had less software available for their operating systems. But people continued to line up for hours to get Apple's newest products. They felt in their gut that Apple was superior. To this day, people love being Apple customers. That's because people understand Apple's why and they identify with it. So, how can you define your own why to better achieve success? In the 1970s, flying was too expensive for the average person. A Texas businessman named Roland King decided to change that. He joined forces with his divorce lawyer, Herb Kelleher, to build Southwest Airlines. At the time, only 15% of the population traveled by air. Southwest was created for the other 85%. But King and Kelleher didn't build their company by using sales tactics. What made Southwest different was their why, championing the common man. And they showed they were championing the common man in everything they did. To increase a sense of equality, they didn't allow people to reserve seats. They also hired cheerleaders as their hostesses, highlighting that their target demographic was normal people. United and Delta tried to copy them and develop their own budget airline, but both flopped. What mattered to people was not what companies did, but why they did it. It wasn't the low prices that mattered. Customers were buying Southwest's why. Even after September 11th and during the later oil crisis, Southwest still turned a profit while other airlines struggled. This was the power of starting with why and aligning it with their what. Sinek developed an actionable way to assure our why inspires everything we do. He calls it the Golden Circle. The Golden Circle is a ring of circles that starts with why at the top. What is your purpose, cause, or belief? This affects your how, the actions you take to realize that belief. And ultimately, it inspires your what, the result of those actions or the thing you do. Most companies know their what and their how but not their why. If we want to succeed, our why, how, and what all need to be in balance and work in unison. Chapter 4. How leaders attract followers. Start with why. If you want to be a leader, you need people to be willing to follow you. This comes from building trust. If people trust you and your why, they'll follow your lead. So how can you build out trust in your organization? Imagine you see two stonemasons at work. You ask one stonemason, "Do you like what you do?" They explain the work is backbreaking and exhausting. They're sick of building the wall. A few feet away, you ask the other stonemason the same question. This one replies the work is backbreaking and exhausting, but he's excited he's building a cathedral. So even though he's tired, he's also proud to be a part of something bigger than himself. The two have exactly the same what, they're building a wall. But one has a sense of purpose, a why, from his leaders. This is how we build trust. Trust emerges when we feel that a person or organization is doing things for reasons other than their self-gain. People who trust their leaders will work harder because they feel they are working towards a larger goal. But companies often make trust a last priority. They give employees something to work on, not to work towards. In the 1980s and 90s, Continental Airlines was a famously bad place to work. The company was hemorrhaging money and employees were miserable. Then Gordon Bethune stepped in as CEO. His goal was to unify the company and turn Continental into a success. He understood that, at its core, a company is just a collection of people. And people need to feel trust. So Bethune built trust by making the success of the company every employee's goal. He gave bonuses based on whether or not Continental did well. But he made these bonuses company-wide. Either everyone got the bonus, or no one did. He also encouraged employees to keep airplanes clean, not for customers, but for themselves. The employees started to feel personally invested in the success of Continental. And people felt they could trust one another because they were in it together. With a company-wide why, profits and morale rocketed sky-high. Chapter 5. How to rally those who believe. Start with why. Once you've figured out your why, you need more than just yourself to bring it to life. So how can you get other people to become as invested in your why as you are? In 1963, Martin Luther King Jr. gave his "I Have a Dream" speech to an audience of over 250,000 people. How was Dr. King able to inspire such high attendance? It wasn't the singularity of his experience. He wasn't the only person who had suffered during the pre-civil rights era. And it wasn't necessarily race-motivated. Nearly a quarter of the people who went were white. So, what inspired people to travel and stand outside in the hot August sun to hear him speak? People were inspired and motivated by Dr. King's why. He didn't tell people what needed to change in America. He told people why he was there. He had a dream of an America where everyone was equal. And when people understood what he believed in, they started to believe it too. They took his cause to build a more equal America and made it their own. The movement was about more than his own idea of a changed America. And so, if you give people something to believe in, they won't just follow you because of who you are. They'll follow you because of their own belief in your idea. Some people have a compelling why, and some people are more focused on how. Both need each other. Why people have something they're excited and inspired by. But the how people are responsible for making that why tangible. For example, the civil rights movement didn't succeed solely because of Dr. King. Dr. King had a friend and mentor named Ralph Abernathy who helped with how. Abernathy provided concrete, actionable ways to implement King's vision, like boycotting buses and attending peaceful marches. The movement couldn't have succeeded without both Dr. King's vision and Abernathy's plan of how to carry it out. Why people help us create a vision of a future that doesn't exist yet, and are how people make it possible. Chapter 6: Aligning your actions with your why. Start with why. When companies want to improve what they do, they often look to what others are doing, but this can lead to an overwhelming amount of options. How can we decide what choices make sense for our why? Sinek gives us an easy way to assess if the things we do match our why. He calls it the celery test. Let's say you've started a business. Everyone offers an opinion on what would make you succeed. Imagine that all of these options are items in a grocery store. If you don't know your why, you'll probably rely on a lot of people's suggestions. One friend says Oreos would be the key to your business. Another says that, in this economy, you absolutely have to have taco seasoning. Later, after following every friend's advice, you're standing in line at the grocery store with a mix of things. But if anyone were to look at you, they'd have no idea what your business is about or what you stand for. You've wasted time and money without building a business you, or anyone else, is excited about. But let's say instead you start with the why of your business. You decide that your why is about being healthy. So this time you only focus on the items that make sense for your why. You go into the supermarket and just buy celery. Now, when you look at your basket, you clearly see your why reflected in it, and so can everybody else. Moving forward, use this test to see whether or not a choice advances your why. If so, give it a shot. If not, leave it on the shelf. When all your actions align with your why, you'll be able to find customers who believe what you believe. Let's say you want to show your kid a movie. You have 2 DVDs at your disposal, a Disney one and one you've never heard of. They have comparable reviews and both are child-friendly. But ultimately, which one would you choose? Odds are you would pick the Disney one. That's because they've passed the celery test time and time again. Each of their whats, the movies they make, reinforce their why. And because of that, you know exactly what Disney stands for. Family fun. This consistency builds trust between companies and their customers and creates long-term loyalty. Chapter 7: Why Success is the Biggest Challenge. Start with why. Howard Schultz is the visionary CEO behind the success of Starbucks. Inspired by Italian espresso bars, he hoped to create a comfortable place for people between work and home. For a long time, Starbucks was that place. You could sit, read, and sip your coffee out of a ceramic cup. Starbucks what's matched its why, and this led to its massive success. But success can cause us to forget our why. Eventually, Schultz stepped down as CEO and things changed. Starbucks forgot the why it stood for. To cut costs, they started using cheaper plastic cups and lower quality coffee. They lost profits and customers over 8 years. Then, Howard returned as CEO. For companies to maintain success, they need to be able to retain their why over time. To test whether your company can maintain its why, Sinek invented a thought exercise he calls the school bus test. If the CEO of a company were to get hit by a school bus tomorrow, would the company survive? Or would its why perish along with the CEO? Company success is contingent upon the company's why being beyond the CEO. Every employee needs to know and understand the company's why and how to apply it to their own work. Most companies measure success based on their what. They measure success by how much money they make. But to keep your why alive, it needs to be the center of your goals. Bridgeport Financial, a debt collection agency, is one company that was able to figure out how to measure their why. The CEO of Bridgeport believed that debt collection could be more efficient and effective when people were treated with respect. This was her why. So she didn't focus on measuring the debt that the company collected, her what. Instead, she measured her why, the respect her employees showed to the people they spoke to. And so she gave bonuses based on the number of cards her employees sent thanking people for speaking with them. Bridgeport Financial ensured they wouldn't forget their why because they measured for it every day. Chapter 8: How to Discover Your Why. Start with why. To find your why, you can't look into the future for inspiration. You have to look back. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak met as teens during the 1970s. The Vietnam War was raging, and it had inspired an intense anti-establishment movement in the US. So Jobs and Wozniak came of age with a shared disdain for power and government. And this fed into their why of wanting to challenge the status quo. They wanted to develop technology that would put power in the hands of the individual. They did this by creating products, like Mac, that allowed anyone access to computers. Their why remained consistent across the years. It was their why before Apple. And it was their why during Apple. Similarly, your why should be based on who you are as a person. It should come from your upbringing and your life experiences. This way, it won't shift based on future projects or accomplishments. Your why should be the thing that gets you out of bed every morning and pushes you to work hard. Sinek tells the story of a high school track runner with cerebral palsy named Ben Cummin. Because of his condition, Cummin came in last in every race. But Cummin wasn't running track to beat his competitors. He was running for his why, to finish the race, despite his condition. Every race, Cummin would cross the finish line with hundreds of people running behind him in support. Sinek says, when you compete against everyone else, no one wants to help you. But when you compete against yourself, everyone wants to help you. And if we use our why as a metric for success, we'll only care about improving ourselves. The main ideas, Chapter 8. Your why should be so integral to who you are as a person that it won't shift based on future projects. Our why should come from our past experiences and upbringing. When we focus on our why, we make improving ourselves the biggest priority. Hit that subscribe button and join us on this exciting journey.